Hello YouTube, my name is Hero and today we're going to be going over a different topic than usual. I like to make a video that opens up discussion on a topic that has caused the most controversy in BDO and almost all other MMOs for the past few years. That topic is none other than the phrase pay to win, aka P2W. We can't truly discuss pay to win without first discussing what the term actually means. This is the most difficult part of the process as the phrase has many different definitions. Some say it's when you have the ability to buy an item that gives you any sort of advantage over another player, and others say you literally have to win when you pay. For the sake of the length of this video, we will use the most recent MMO that is almost universally recognized and agreed to be pay to win, ArcheAge. The phrase pay to win reached its peak popularity when ArcheAge came out in Western territories a few years ago. ArcheAge, if you don't know, was an MMO that many were excited for. It had features that weren't present in any other MMO at that time. The game encouraged actual gameplay, discovery, research, and most of all, hard work to become the best at it. Or so people thought. Shortly after the game's release, the in-game cash shop was slowly but surely updated with items that helped the player's progression dramatically. The largest, most defining factor were items called charms. These allowed for a better chance at upgrading equipment, essentially lessening the probability of failure and allowing a cash shop player to reach higher level gear extremely faster than a free-to-play player. And thus, ArcheAge was almost universally claimed to be a pay-to-win MMO. This destroyed ArcheAge's population and reputation indefinitely, and though it still has servers up and players today, is nothing more than a shell of what it was and could have been. So, ArcheAge is done, and a lot of people who like the idea of ArcheAge naturally gravitate to BDO, which had not been released yet at the time, even in Korea. Korean MMOs had a pretty common tradition of being released much slower to other territories, so many people didn't hop on the BDO hype train as they didn't know when the game would come. Not only that, but there was a scar that was left by ArcheAge, which many of these people did not wish to reopen whilst getting into BDO. They were rightfully cautious about a new MMO that could potentially be everything they wanted from ArcheAge, but almost universally better. And so, BDO came out in Korea, and many Western players, myself included, participated in the open beta test for the game. We wanted to see what the game would offer us and if it would be the same game we all wanted it to be. At the beginning, it was. The game had no signs of pay to win. Everything you got was hard earned. Fail stacks didn't even exist back then. But then the cash shop was released in the official launch of the game, and a lot of our worries came to fruition. Cash shop sets with perks were introduced, pets with stats increase were introduced, and worst of all, a golden fishing rod was introduced. This fishing rod was bugged and provided the user with more money in a few hours than they could make in a few weeks of grinding. It was a really bad blow to the game's young economy, and the developers had to find a way to fix the mistake they made. This is when they allowed cash shop items to be sold on the marketplace. It was at this point many agreed that the game was going in a pay-to-win direction, and many did not like it at all. The big thing though is that BDO KR was a free-to-play MMO, therefore pay-to-win is a little more tolerated in that type of market. What's more is that it was a Korean MMO, of which are notoriously pay-to-win, as the Korean community does not find as much issue with pay-to-win as the Western community does, though they too have their limits. This gave the Western KR BDO players hope in that the game wouldn't be pay to win in Western territories because it doesn't market as well here as it does in Korea. Fast forward a few years later, and BDO is announced in the Western markets as much sooner than usual. What's even more surprising is that the developers and the community managers seem to have a no pay to win sort of persona about them. They insisted that the game would, quote, not be like it is in Korea. They made it seem as though they were making an effort to find out how to change the game in a way that would please a majority of the Western market, which is understandable, logical, and honestly a much appreciated approach from a marketing team in this day and age. And so we discussed with them on the early days of the forum why certain aspects of the game in Korea weren't fit for Western territories. The largest and most agreed upon factor was that we did not want the cash shop to help with character progression, as character progression is essentially the essence of what made BDO special. Essentially, we didn't want to see charms or anything like that in the game at all. And so, with the information gathered, the developers made the logical decision of making BDO a buy-to-play game. A one-time purchase and no subscription required. This allowed for the game to earn the finances they needed while still giving Westerners what they wanted, a pay-to-win free environment. This was almost universally approved by every player I knew at the time, and $30 was very fair priced. All in all, I and many others were extremely impressed with the way the publisher was handling the game and had very high hopes. We started to talk about the game on Reddit posts, YouTube, Twitter, etc. We started to get others who had no idea about it interested. We started to get hype. And then the game came out. And it wasn't pay to win in the way that ArcheAge was. There were no charms, only pets that pick up your loot at an alarmingly slow rate at the time. However, as time went on, more and more items started occurring, more and more perks for spending money started to appear. Pets started picking up loot faster, and this is where many started to draw the line on what they considered to be pay to win, as we have defined it in this video. To reiterate, we have defined pay to win as what it made ArcheAge universally pay to win, which is the ability for a player who pays to achieve a much higher progression rate than a player who doesn't. The only vague part of this phrase is the much higher part. How do you define this? The answer is you can't. You can only define it for yourself. And in the rest of this video, I will show you evidence that will help you come to that definition easier. So when discussing pay to win in BDO, people tend to go to two aspects the most. The first being the ability to sell cash shop items on the market for in-game silver, and the second being Artisan memories. There are plenty others, but for the sake of this video, we will only be discussing these two. Let's start with the first, the ability to sell cash shop items on the market. So here are the facts. A full costume in BDO costs $32. Each costume sells for about 20 million silver after taxes. You can list 5 costumes per week, so if you were to spend $160 a week, you would make 100 million silver per week. That's coming in at about $1.60 per million silver. Now, what exactly can you do with 100 million silver? The counter argument to this claim will state that it's not much actually, as many people make that amount or even more in a single day. I would be inclined to agree with them myself. Yet, the option is still available. If you are a new player, 100 million silver may come in handy for buying some decent gear in order to help you grind more efficiently. So, let's move on to the second point. The point that most closely correlates with the definition of pay to win we have come to, Artisan memories. Artisan memories allow their user the ability to turn one repair item into 3. In BDO, when you repair your gear, you must either sacrifice a duplicate of the same gear or use memory fragments. Memory fragments are an essential part of late game enhancing, as they repair the best gear in the game by 1 durability for each of them. At the moment, they are fluctuating in price on the market, but for math's sake, let's say they go for 700,000 silver each, which is the average price. Now, an artisan memory gives you 2 artisans every time you use 1 memory fragment, and 1 artisan memory costs 50 cents unless you buy a bundle of 100 of them, in which case they are 40 cents. For argument's sake, we'll just go with the worst case scenario of 50 cents. For 50 cents, you are getting 1.4 million silver as a late game player, but it goes beyond that. Check out all the items that are not affected by artisan memories. For example, the accessories like Ogre Rings, Mark of Shadow, Try Witches. And what do you see? The most sold of any of these items is at +0. This is logical. However, look at the Dandelion market. Dandelion, being the most valuable item in the game at the moment, is outsold at +0 by Try sales at an alarming ratio. Why do you think that is? It is because players are using artisan memories to enchant dandies they find, sometimes even the ones they buy, to try to make a large profit. Let me explain. Each time you fail an enchant on a dandelion, you lose 10 of its max durability. Therefore, with 300 memory fragments, you have 30 different chances to fail before you are out of durability. There are plenty who have made try dandelions in less than 30 different failures on the weapon, myself included, but once again, let's use the worst case scenario being 300 memory fragments. If you use 100 Artisan memories or $50, you can use 70 million worth of memory fragments versus 210 million worth of memory fragments. A dandelion at base is worth 95 mil, so if you use 210 mil to make it to try, you would be at almost zero profit. However, if you only used 100 memory fragments and 100 Artisan memories, the profit would be close to 200 mil. None of this is including the cost of weapon stones. We are using the worst case scenario of losing 300 durability to counterbalance that. So as the math shows, via Artisan memories, you can turn 50 cents into 1.4 million silver relatively easy. The counter argument to this is that it is gated by RNG. If that is your position as well, then allow me to refer you one final time to ArcheAge, a universally claimed pay-to-win MMO that's largest pay-to-win item is also gated by RNG. I have given you the facts, and now it's time to make your own decisions on whether or not the game is pay-to-win. And if you come to the conclusion that it is, well, you still can continue to play. Do the pros outweigh the cons? That's something for you to decide on your own. I can't help you with that. Thank you for watching, and if you're interested in having a civil discussion about this, I'd be more than happy in the comments. This is Hero. See you next time.